大家好，本期视频是塔克卡尔森刚刚对俄罗斯外长拉夫罗夫采访的节选。在这段采访中，卡尔森问了拉夫罗夫一个不仅中美，而且是全世界都在关注的问题，即俄罗斯还有没有可能被重新拉回西方阵营。俄罗斯外长的回答和俄罗斯总统普京之前数次的表态一致，那就是没有可能。俄罗斯与西方的关系无法再回头了。中俄关系现在很紧密，虽然还有人因为历史原因对俄罗斯抱有怀疑态度，但主流上都相信俄罗斯现在要重回西方不是那么容易了。在这里，我分享几段网友的评论。有网友说，外媒认为卡尔森才是美国的国务卿，显然他是奉命而来。董王要联俄抗中成功了，他能被载入史册。有网友回复说，普京老了，没时间反复横跳了，他在跟时间赛跑。还有网友回复说，俄罗斯那些兵打了2年多，是白死的吗？怎么可能联美抗中？另有网友回复说，只要是正常人，就不可能损害中俄关系，讨好美国。就哪怕是最坏的情况，美俄联手，对我们来说也不是过不下去了。以前最困难的时候，美俄混合双打也就那样。这位网友说，我认为俄罗斯不会抗中，但从俄罗斯自身的利益出发，他们也许会跟中国保持一段距离，然后跟西方达成一定程度的缓和。普京最初的猴子理论其实是有道理的，坐山观虎斗，适时在某一方加个筹码，玩平衡战略，换取自己的利益最大化。这位网友说，俄罗斯民众多数想贴欧美是事实，普京早年自己也说过，想跟欧盟北约混，结果20年发展不起来，3餐饿9顿，他都70多岁了，不会再轻信美西方的反复无常，制裁拉拢又制裁。这位网友说，控制欧洲是美国控制世界的基础，美国控制不了欧洲，就控制不了世界。控制欧洲的3大支柱是经济、政治和军事，缺一不可。美国如果想联俄，就不能再挑唆欧洲反俄了，这样他想鼓吹俄罗斯军事威胁，从而在军事上控制欧洲的做法就不能继续下去。所以老拜登的做法是打俄抗中，想把中俄捆绑在一起，共同塑造为欧洲的敌人，这样美国就能牢牢控制欧洲，还能给中国更大的压力。老拜登的策略更有操作性，而且很毒，而联俄抗中一点操作性都没有，根本执行不了。好了，我们来看看拉夫罗夫是怎么说的吧。
Would dropping sanctions against Russia be a condition?
I would say probably many people in Russia would like to make it a condition, but the more we live under sanctions, the more we understand that it is better to rely on yourself and to develop mechanisms, to develop platforms for cooperation with normal countries who are not unfriendly to you, and don't mix economic interest and policies, and especially politics. And we learned a lot after the sanctions started. Sanctions started under Obama. They continued in a very big way under first term of Trump. And these sanctions under the Biden administration are absolutely unprecedented. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, you know. And
Well, but it also just drives
they would be never kill us, so they are making us stronger.
and driving Russia east. And so the vision that I think sane policymakers in Washington had 20 years ago is, why not bring Russia into a Western bloc, sort of as a balance against the rising East? But it doesn't seem like that. Do you think that's still possible?
I don't think so. Recently, Putin was speaking at Valdai Club. Politologists and experts. He said we would never be back at the situation of early 2022. that's when he realized for himself, apparently, not only he, but he spoke publicly about this, that all attempts to be on equal terms with the West have failed. It started after the demise of the Soviet Union. There was euphoria. We are now part of the liberal world, the democratic world, end of history. But very soon it became clear to most of the Russians that in the 90s we were treated at best as junior partner, maybe not even as a partner, but as a place where the West can organize things like it wants, striking deals with oligarchs, buying resources and assets, and then probably the Americans decided that Russia is in their pocket. Boris Yeltsin, Bill Clinton, buddies, laughing, joking, but even at the end of Yeltsin's term, he started to contemplate that this was not something she wanted for Russia. And I think this was very obvious when he appointed Putin prime minister and then left earlier and blessed Putin as his successor for the elections which were coming and which Putin won. But when Putin became president, he was very much open to cooperation with the West. And he mentions about this quite regularly when he speaks with interviewers or at some international events. I was present when he met with George Bush Jr., with Obama. Well, after the meeting of NATO in Bucharest, which was followed by NATO-Russia summit meeting in 2008, when they announced that Georgia and Ukraine will be in NATO, and then they tried to sell it we asked why. There was lunch and Putin asked, what was the reason for this?
Good question.
And they said, this is something which is not obligatory. How come? Well, to start the process of joining NATO, you need a formal invitation. And this is a slogan. Ukraine and Georgia will be in NATO. But this slogan, became obsession for some people in Tbilisi first, when Saakashvili lost his senses and started the war against his own people under the protection of OSCE mission with the Russian peacekeepers on the ground. And the fact that he launched this was confirmed by the European Union investigation which they launched and which concluded that he gave the order to start. And for Ukrainians, it took a bit longer. And they were cultivating this pro-Western mood. Pro-Western is not bad, basically. Pro-Eastern is also not bad. What is bad is that you tell people either or. Either you go with me or you're my enemy. What happened before the coup in Ukraine? In 2013, the president of Ukraine, it was Mr. Yanukovych, negotiated with the European Union some association agreement which would nullify tariffs on most of the Ukrainian goods to the European Union and the other way around. And at some point, when he was meeting with Russian counterparts, we told him, you have already, Ukraine was part of the free trade area of the Commonwealth of Independent States, no tariffs for everybody. And we, Russia, negotiated agreement with World Trade Organization for some 15, 17 years, mostly because we bargained with European Union and we achieved some protection for many of our sectors, agriculture, some others. And we explained to the Ukrainians that if you go zero in your trade with European Union, we would have to protect our customs border with you, with Ukraine. Otherwise, the zero tariff European goods would flood and would be hurting our industries, which we tried to protect and agreed for some protection. Then we suggested to the European Union, guys, Ukraine is our common neighbor. You want to have better trade with Ukraine. We want the same. Ukraine want to have markets both in Europe and in Russia. Why don't we sit three of us and discuss it like grown-ups? The head of the European Council Commission was the Portuguese, Barroso was his name. And he responded, you know, it's none of your business what we do with Ukraine. We, for example, we, the European Union, we don't ask you to discuss with us your trade with China. Absolutely arrogant answer. And then the president of Ukraine, Yanukovych, he convened his experts, and the experts said, yes, it would be not very good if we have opened the border with European Union, but the customs border with Russia would be closed, and they would be checking, you know, what is coming, so that the Russian market is not affected. And he announced in November 2013 that he cannot sign the deal immediately, and he asked the European Union to postpone it for next year, until next year. That was the trigger for Maidan, which was immediately thrown up and ended by the coup. The European leaders were publicly saying Ukrainian people must decide, are they with us or with Russia? This either or is still very much.
But it is the way that big countries behave. I mean, there are certain orbits, and now it's BRICS versus NATO, US versus China. And it sounds like you're saying the Russian-Chinese alliance is permanent.
Well, we are neighbors. We are neighbors. Of course. And geography is very important.
But you're also neighbors with Western Europe. You're part of it, in effect.
Well, through Ukraine. And the Western Europe wants to come to our borders. And there were plans that, were discussed almost openly to put British naval bases on the Sea of Azov. Crimea was eyed, dreaming about creating NATO base in Crimea, and so on and so forth. We have been very friendly with Finland, for example. Overnight, the Finns came back to early years of preparation for World War II, when they were best allies of Hitler, and all this neutrality, all this friendship, going to sauna together, playing hockey together, all this disappeared overnight. So maybe this was deep in their hearts, and the neutrality was burdening them, and niceties were burdening for them. I don't know.